Right, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and I'll call the West Richland City Council meeting for June 20th, 2023 to order at 6 p.m. And before we get started, I'd like to ask Amy to read the hybrid meeting ground rules and then call the roll. Amy?
Tonight's meeting will be held in person with a virtual meeting component. If you are participating virtually, please make sure the name shown at the bottom of your video view is the name you would like the mayor to use. You can change this by right-clicking on your video view and selecting rename. Audience members present in the council chambers will be called upon first during public comment periods. Those participating remotely should virtually raise your hand if you wish to speak. To virtually raise your hand, click on participants and then click on raise hand. If you are participating by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Brent Gary.
Here.
Richard Bloom.
Here.
Fred Brink. David Fetto.
Here.
May Hayes.
Here.
Kate Moran. John Smart.
Here.
And Ken Stoker.
Here.
Council member Moran and Mayor Pro Tem Brink are at an AWC meeting and would like to be excused from this meeting. So may I have a motion to approve their excuse?
Move to approve these, to excuse the two council.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign, motion carried. Thank you, council. And with that, I'll ask Councilmember Hayes to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance this evening, if you would, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Hayes, appreciate it. Council, the agenda is before you. Earlier today, we sent out a revision of item 6C to be pulled from the agenda, lacking some information. However, that information was received in time to bring that item back to the agenda this evening. So 6C is back on. So with that, may I have a motion to approve the agenda this evening?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. And this evening, we have a couple of presentations. The first one, we'll go ahead and ask Chief Grego to come to the podium and administer the oath of office for our new Commander Coates. Chief Grego.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tonight, I'm honored to promote Mitch Coates to Commander. Commander Coates has been with the West Richland Police Department since 2015. During that time, he has become the head collision investigator, developed and implemented current field training program, and trained many of the department's officers. He was also the department's in-house detective, investigating various in-depth cases. In preparation for the new position, he has been the acting chief and attended several supervisory classes, some from which from the FBI LEDA. He continues to expand his supervisory skills by attending training courses. Commander Coates previously worked in aviation industry as an airline pilot. He worked for the American Eagles airline flying in, thank you, Embraer 145 throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico. His training, dedication, and attention to detail from his aviation career has been seen crossing over in the law enforcement world. He is currently also the chief pilot for the Bergstrom aircraft part-time, running the flight department and overseeing all training for the company. Commander Coates is joined tonight by his wife, Sarah, and his children, Lauren, Charlie, and his oldest, Claire. His oldest, Claire, is busy with high school soccer practice. Sarah has been present and pinned all of Mitch's previous badges. So tonight, we'll continue that tradition and have her come up to do that. So at this time, would you guys both step forward? And then we'll conduct the oath of office after that.
Anybody from the audience has some camera or video, or do they have cameras now? Video camcorder. You can come up and take pictures as well. Get the light. Yeah, where's, get the cell phone light in there, right? Here you go, chief. Do you need that for any blood?
I, Mitchell Coates,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties
the duties
of Police Commander
of Police Commander
for the City of West Richland,
for the City of West Richland,
Washington,
Washington,
according to the law
according to the law
and the best of my ability.
and the best of my abilities.
Outstanding. We'll move on to the Pledge of an Officer. So you can go ahead and raise your right hand again. On my honor,
On my honor,
I will never betray my integrity,
I will never betray my integrity,
my character,
my character,
or the public's trust.
or the public's trust.
I will always
I will always
have the courage
have the courage
to hold myself and others
to hold myself and others
accountable for their actions.
accountable for their actions.
I will always maintain
I will always maintain
the highest ethical standards
the highest ethical standards
and uphold the values
and uphold the values
of the community I serve
of the community I serve
and the West Richland Police Department.
and the West Richland Police Department.
Congratulations, Commander.
Thank you. Thank you. I just have a couple things to say. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife, Sarah, for being such an amazing individual and always pushing me to achieve greatness. She's always been by my side from going off to the airlines until the day I said, I think I'm done flying and I want to become a police officer. She keeps our family and extended family, the guys in blue back here, all in order. I couldn't have gotten to this position without her, even though this change is something we haven't experienced much since I've been either gone or working shift work. Now we have to learn to live with each other all the time, which is going to be great. And I can't wait to spend so much more time with the family. I'd like to also thank Chief Grego for his belief in my skills and knowledge to promote me to this position. Chief, you've seen me grow from a new wide-eyed officer to this position I'm currently taking. I couldn't be more excited to work alongside you. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to help this department grow, stay healthy, and continue to foster a community relationship with our city. Council members, thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate this little bit of time, and I can't wait to continue to work for the city in this capacity. Thank you.
So Commander Coates, I was talking to him earlier and I was mentioning to him when I would drive by his house and I'd see these little girls playing in the yard. You know, they were just riding trikes and not even on two-wheelers, and now they've grown up. So yeah, it's going to be great for you to be able to be at home and spend more time with your family. I know it's very important. So thank you very much for your service. Look forward to many more years. That Commander. Okay, now they're off to pizza. All right, Chief, I'm not gonna let you go. I'm gonna go ahead and hold you up for one more presentation related to the public safety sales tax. So if you give us a short briefing in regards to the status of that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to talk to the council tonight, kind of give you an update on the public safety sales tax and where we're at today, and how the West Richland Police Department has used this public safety tax to protect the community. Next slide, please. The public safety tax was passed by the voters of Benton County via Proposition 14-5 in August of 2014. This was a 0.3% sales and use tax collected pursuant to RCW 82.14.450. For specified criminal justice purposes, when the public safety tax was passed, it included a sunset clause of 10 years, which is set to expire December of 2024. The police department has used the sales tax revenue to add 3 certified general authority police officers from the 2015 to date. Those positions are 2 police officers and 1 sergeant position. This year, we were able to use this money to add 1 more full-time position to our support staff. The public safety tax also provided the necessary equipment and training money for the added positions that is required for these additional positions and other expenditures, which will be presented later in this presentation. Next slide, please. Starting last year, Mayor Pro Tem Brink and I began attending the monthly Benton County Law and Justice meeting. This board is designated or designed to talk about any regional criminal justice topics with judges, court clerks, chiefs and sheriffs, court program leaders, or anything that comes up. The expiration of the public sales safety tax became a topic of discussion. The commissioners of Benton County are working on a plan to put the public safety sales tax back on the ballot this November for the voters for consideration. Chiefs and sheriffs have answered any questions and provided information about the use of these funds since the tax was passed, as well as how we would use these money if the tax was passed again. The plan is being worked on, and according to the Benton County Guide to Election and Candidates, filing deadline would be August 1st. From what I understand, I don't believe the commissioners plan on adding a sunset clause to the ballot on this public safety tax on this November ballot this year. Next slide. Here is a look at the revenue expenditures. Maybe, there we go. Expenditures history for West Richland. The city of first started receiving funds in March of 2015. Initially, these funds were supported to hiring 2 additional officers in 2015 and later a sergeant position. In 2023, we used the funds to add an additional support staff member. PST funds are also used to fully support the officers, which include salaries, benefits, uniforms, related supplies and services for each position. Next slide. Future use of the PST revenue would continue to support our current PST positions. PST funding is not intended to supplant existing positions. PST would be used to pay the pro rata share of costs associated with the positions, such as operating costs of equipment, dispatch services, communication, administrative services, professional services expenses. These will also help us maintain our below state percentage of 1.25 officers per 1,000. Without this funding source, we may not be able to maintain current staffing levels, and we would drop to 1.08 officers per 1,000. This is calculated based on the population of 17,500 people. Last year, WASPIC reported that the Washington State is the least policed state in the union, with an average of 1.3 officers per 1,000, as compared to the national average of 2.83 per 1,000, according to the FBI. Other than that, unless anybody has any questions or comments, that is the end of my presentation.
Questions for the chief? Very informational. Very good. Thank you, chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it. All right, council. Now we have the consent agenda before us this evening, which includes the payment of the bills. Approve the minutes of the regular meeting, June 6, 2023. Resolution 3923, the Water System Development Fee Mitigation Agreement for Watermark. Ordinance 1223, amending West Richland Municipal Code for drug paraphernalia. Motion to authorizing the submission of the Public Works Trust Fund loan application. Motion to award the 2023 street striping project. If there's anyone from the audience who would like to speak to our consent agenda this evening, you come to the podium. Seeing no one in the audience, if there's anyone virtually, which I see no one virtually this evening. Amy, do you see anybody virtually joining us this evening?
No, I do not.
That council may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. This is the first opportunity for citizen public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening. If you would like to provide comments to the council, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium. Please state your name and place of residence for the record. Take your time, not a problem. Clock doesn't start till you start speaking, so you're in good shape.
Okay, my name is Patty Hendon. I live at 6080 Deer Street, West Richland, of course. I'm here because we don't have any code enforcement in the Tap Till area. I had the honor of riding around with a person from Olympia, and they were absolutely shocked at the difference between, say, Bombing Ridge Road subdivisions and the Tap Till area. I'm not here to throw any animal control person under the bus. She's got her hands full with animal control. Evidently, we did not build enough cages for the animals because she's had to return animals and not pick up animals because we didn't have a place to put them. We voted on a bond, it passed, and so I don't know what happened, but I've heard this more than once. I do have some pictures, if anybody's interested, and a list of the properties that need attention, starting with somebody that has received numerous citations. And let me just tell you, my survey started at 62nd, where you turn to go to Tap Till Elementary, and it ended at 58th. So that's just in that area. And I have, let's see, 13, 14 houses. One of the ones that I'm complaining about is the 389 Deer Street, the second one from the end. He's received numerous citations for old junky cars and stuff. He was told to remove an RV that was a small RV that was on the property. He moved it, and then after everything cooled down, he moved it back on the property. And he has been given several warnings about this, and he has just quit working really on cleaning up the property. And this is not a new thing that has been going on for 8 years. And he has been behind on his city taxes and numerous other things. But meanwhile, the junky cars don't get cleaned up. When I say junk, I don't mean like if you've got a bunch of kids and you have toys in the front yard. That's not what I'm calling junk. I'm calling it junk when the property has not been mowed and the grass is over 12 inches tall.
Mayor,
Yes.
that's been 3 minutes.
Okay, we have another public comment at the end of the meeting for another 3 minutes if you'd like to stay.
Okay,
But also, if you want to share all of your information that you have with our city clerk,
okay,
we'll make sure that it gets to the chief. And
Okay.
that's his department in regards to that. But if you'd like to stay for the next other round, you're more than welcome.
thank
to.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening? And again, do we have anybody virtually? I see none. Amy,
No, there isn't any.
on virtual. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and roll on to item 8A and B, or a public hearing and a resolution to approve a frontage improvement waiver for the property on Sand Hill. We'll have Public Works Director Roscoe Slade present his staff report this evening.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just a second, Roscoe. So if you could just go ahead and hand that information to her and then be seated, ma'am. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. Roscoe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So another frontage improvement waiver. They seem to come in fours. So what you have before you is a property owner that lives at it's a vacant lot at the corner of Harrington and Sand Hill Drive. It's a vacant lot. The property owners applied for a building permit at the time of writing the staff report. I don't know if it's been issued. But it doesn't meet the exemption because Harrington Road has improvements. And so what you have before you was a petition not to have to do frontage improvements to Sand Hill. Currently, it's just a gravel road. They submitted an application on April 20th. Council passed resolution 2723 and May 16th, establishing our June 20th meeting tonight for a public hearing on the frontage improvement waiver. Staff, when they review it, goes through it and looks at if there's any, if granting this waiver will be detrimental to the best interest of the city, contrary to its intent to the public interest, safety, health, and welfare, and are there special circumstances or conditions that would cause undue hardship to the property owner. Staff did post the property. The city clerk posted it in 3 public places, and then properties within 600 feet were notified of tonight's public hearing. And as of the meeting, I didn't receive any comments. Stephanie, did you so the clerk didn't receive any written comments or emails prior to it. So you can see in the staff report, curb gutter sidewalks, typical for a residential street, is being requested. Staff's recommending that it be waived. Again, conditioned on the property owner granting, waiving the right to a future LID for if there was an LID to improve Sand Hill. And we're also conditioning on them dedicating 50-foot of right of way and a 12-foot utility easement. Currently, the gravel road of Sand Hill is 100% onto this property. So that's why it's the full road right of way we're asking for from the property owner. So with that, I think I covered everything. We'll open it up to the public.
Thank you, Roscoe. I'll open the public hearing at 6:22. If you'd like to provide comment to this agenda item, please come to the podium and state your name and residency for the record. I see no one in the house here and still no one virtually. Is that correct, Amy?
That is correct.
Thank you. With that, I will go ahead and close the public hearing at, goodness sakes, my clock went off, 6:23. And with that, council, do I have a motion related to the resolution 4023 granting the frontage improvement waiver for Sand Hill? It's a long one.
I move to pass resolution 4023 granting a frontage improvement waiver for the frontage improvements to Sand Hill Drive per West Richland Municipal Code 1204-060 for the property owner of Benton County parcel 12507-401-1330-001 associated with a building permit for a new single-family residential home on the parcel, condition on 1, the property owner waiving all rights to protest against future local improvement district provided for the construction of said frontage improvement by executing and recording at the property owner's cost a city attorney approved waiver of protest agreement in compliance with West RCW 3543-182, and 2, the property owner execute and record at the property owner's cost a deed to the city of West Richland via statutory warranty deed, 50 feet of road right of way along the northern frontage of Sand Hill Drive, together with 12-foot utility easement adjacent to the dedicated road right of way prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy / final building permit inspection.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you, Councilman Bloom, very well. Council, is there any other questions you might have of Roscoe that wasn't already covered in his staff report this evening? Seeing none? Yes, sir, Councilmember Smart?
Yeah, so Rusk, I'll just take this opportunity to let you remind us, if the waiver to protest against future local improvement districts, is there a time limit on that?
Yeah, that's the RCW that's referenced in there. There is a 10-year time limit that if an LID is not formed within that period, this waiver expires.
Right, okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes, so you said that Sand Hill is 100%. That road is on this property right now, correct?
Yeah, it currently exists within I don't remember if it was a 60 or 70-foot access easement that goes across this property.
So does that 50 feet fully encompass the road then? They're not getting the road plus another 50 feet plus another 12 feet?
No, it's over the top of the existing access easement.
Okay. Because I've been up that road many times. I've got friends and family up there, so yeah.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving on to items 8C and D are a public hearing and an ordinance to amend the West Richland Municipal Code to allow automotive collision repair, including paint booths in the CL zone. And I'll have Community Development Director Eric Mendenhall presenting staff report this evening. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you this evening is a application or a request that we received from Frank and Sons Auto Body to make a change to the zoning code. Currently, the zoning code allows for collision repair without paint booths, which I find somewhat ironic since you kind of need paint to after you've banged that dent out of the car or replace the panel to match the paint of the existing vehicle. So that application came in, we reviewed it. I looked at the Benton County Community Air Agency's regulations, which I believe mitigate the pollutants and exhaust that come from these facilities. And I spoke with Sean Markison about the emission allowance, and they have to clean their emissions to 99.99% for their emission, which is substantial compared to the air they're bringing in is likely a lot more dirty than the air that they're emitting out. So I believe that definitely mitigates that impact. Staff is recommending that this be a conditional use within this zone. And the Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 11th. They agree and are recommending council vote in favor, approve this proposed amendment. I met with the city the Economic and Development Subcommittee of Council on May 9th, and they also recommended do pass on this proposed amendment. And so that is my presentation for you this evening.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. With that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:28. If anyone would like to speak to this item on the agenda, please come to the podium and state your name and residency for the record. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Sean Markison, 2052 Anna Avenue, Richland. First of all, thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak for you guys. Again, my name is Sean Markison. I'm the owner and operator of Frank and Sons Auto Body. We are a third-generation family-owned and operated business that has been serving the greater Tri-Cities area since 1960. As Eric stated, the current CL or commercial limited zoning does not allow for auto body shops with paint booths. We understand why this restriction was put in place. We also understand that for a long time, the auto body industry may have gained a bad reputation of being dirty, dusty old shops that may resemble something more of a wrecking yard more than a professional establishment. The truth about our business and the way we operate as a modern collision repair facility is much different. Our facilities are clean, organized, utilizing advanced technology and equipment to effectively repair today's vehicles back to pre-accident condition, and in many instances better. As Eric stated again, our paint facility and equipment that we utilize, if allowed, are highly efficient and effective at ensuring that we are protecting our technicians and the surrounding environment. In many instances, as he stated, the air leaving our paint booths is significantly cleaner than the air entering them. Air passes through multiple filter stages before it enters the spray environment, and all the air passes through captive air filters that contain 99.9% of the contaminants leaving the spray booth. Our exhaust filter media and replacement frequency exceed national emission standards and again, prevent 99.99% of excess particles from entering the exhaust system. This not only protects the environment, but also increases longevity of our equipment. In addition, most regulations require that exhaust stacks be a minimum of 30 feet away from property lines. Our current design ensures that exhaust outlets exceed that by more than 50%. And if we can exceed that even more, we will. In conclusion, with the captive air spray booths and the water-based paints that we use, we are actively engaged in reducing the environmental impact of the automotive refinish process. And if anything, and we will continue to adopt any new technology or process that may become available. We are very much looking forward to serving the West Richland community and are humbled at the opportunity to bring high-paying jobs and what we feel is a much-needed service to the area. Thank you again, and I sincerely appreciate your time. Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience? Seeing no one here, I still see nobody virtually. Amy, do you see anybody virtually?
No, I do not.
That we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:31. And council ordinance 1323, amending West Richland Municipal Code to allow automotive collision repair paint booths in CL zone. Motion, please.
I move to pass ordinance 1323, approve the proposed text amendment, text 004, 2023, and amending the West Richland Municipal Code to allow automotive collision repair, including paint booths, as a conditional use in the commercial limited zone.
Second.
Motion and second. Council, any questions of the staff report previously written? Councilmember Bloom, you go first.
Yes. Air permitting has been, and I had a discussion with Eric earlier this afternoon. I've spent most of my life doing environmental, and I've permitted double shell tanks, radiological facilities, and it isn't uncommon for the air leaving a well-filtered facility to be cleaner than what came in. And matter of fact, from a radiological standpoint, I had actual documentation. It was cleaner from what's ambient in the air because there is something out there. But interesting statement you made. The one concern I have is odors from, you said you use water-based paints and you're not, so we allow, it's a conditional use permit, but so you can operate without using solvent-based paints. Is that what the condition is? And that's one.
You could ask a question to Eric if you would, please.
Eric?
We're not processing the conditional use permit tonight.
Well, no, but
And as far as the paint, this is just allowing a paint booth, so it's not restricting it to a specific type of paint. This is just, it would allow a paint booth associated with a collision repair facility. So when they come through with their conditional use permit, if we believe that it needs to have additional restrictions such as water-based paints solely be allowed, that's something that could be looked at that time.
well, it's just because solvent-based paints, you can have carbon capture, but the nose is an amazing feature. And I had a discussion with Clean Air Authority earlier today, and there have been concerns with paint booths near residential areas, and they're not often, but it's high volume. And just, full disclosure, you had my car last month. And you've done a lot of work for me over there, but Yeah, I'm just representing the citizens and being clear that painting can be smelly if there's solvents involved.
And Eric and I did have the conversation in regards to your email and the concern that you had. And there is obviously an awful lot of automotive repair facilities with outdated equipment that is grandfathered in and still meets the requirements that they have to meet. So being that this is something that's brand new in production, as far as it's of all the technology in the water-based paint, while I understand your concern as representing the citizens and respect that, and the distance of setback as discussed is going to be further than what is required. But that's also something that can be discussed and disclosed in the conditional use permit. So thank you for your comments, Councilman.
I'm not opposed to
Oh,
this.
absolutely not. I appreciate that and I do understand that as well. I've been around the paint industry a little bit to know that can of Krylon from Safeway or from Ace is a little stronger than what these guys are producing. Councilmember Smart.
Yeah, I just had similar comments. I think that I would encourage us to pass this. But I think during conditional use permitting, I think, and I don't know if it belongs here or only in the conditional use permitting, but statements of the nature of, management by objective, like make sure that we have a tenant or not tenant, a landowner, a business owner who's going to make sure that the effluents have no impact on the surrounding properties. That's really the bottom line. I mean, so if you're using water-based, maybe it's easy. If you're using some sort of oil-based or volatile organic compounds for cleaning and other things besides paint, that's fine too, as long as whatever comes out of your building doesn't affect the neighbors, right? That's all that anybody's asking for. So I don't think that belongs here. I think it probably belongs in the conditional permitting, but I just want to make sure that that's put on the record that would be our concern. The other thing is, will this ordinance change? This does allow there to be residential properties adjacent to these zones. Is that correct or not?
That is a discussion that Richard and I had actually earlier. And thank you, Richard, for the email and the conversation. I appreciate it. It's very helpful. The CL zone, all of the properties have at least one property line that abuts residential. So if you look at those properties that are zone CL, they're all right there adjacent to a residential piece of property. One of the things that isn't mentioned in here because it's not part of this, it's part of our landscape code. But when you have commercial land up against a residential piece of land, there is a 10-foot landscape requirement that's going to be there. So in addition to the setback of the stack that they've got, you'll also have that buffer along the property line that's going to provide visible and potentially odoriferous buffering. If you get a nice good cedar arborvitae in there, that's going to, provide some different, but each site, and that's why a conditional use permits being recommended, is each site has its own specific intricacies that we look at through that process to make sure that how it's being mitigated, what's downwind, those kinds of things are being analyzed as part of that conditional use permit.
Yeah, I'm very glad we have those buffer features in our ordinances and code. So the other thing I would mention is is just noise as well. So the fans and so forth make noise. If you have a residence with a backyard adjacent to this location, you're 30 feet away. Presume the fan isn't. It's something we should also look at during conditional use, right? And is there sound mitigation? You wouldn't want to impose on the neighbor, the sound, a loud fan noise all day long. So I think these are just points to bring up. I think it's an opportune time. When we have the discussion on conditional permitting, those will come up. But yeah, I support. It really makes no sense to allow auto repair without paint booths. So thank you.
Just one thing I was noticing was there a rationale for not expanding this to commercial? commercial limited may be next to residential, commercial light industrial may be next to residential, and commercial could be. Yeah, we have a specific act, but we might want to consider that in a future amendment. Put it on your hit list.
Yeah, it is actually. It wasn't being asked for and I didn't want to ask for too much and then have it all washed away. And so I just put in there what was being requested. But it was something I noticed on there too, that was like, gosh, why in the Sam Hill do we even have this in here in the first place? Let's just axe this and just move it up to where it's supposed to be in that with paint booth and just get rid of the paint booth completely in it. Understand in the definition that a collision repair facility is going to have a paint booth and just make sure that that's clear. So that is a part of a cleanup that I'll do in the future. I just didn't, like I said, I didn't want to.
In short, we were responding to the request. Councilmember Fetto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eric, so looking at the applicant is Tim. First, Frankensons, thank you for coming back. I know this is our second attempt to getting you in the city limits, so thanks for coming back. Hopefully this all works out for you. So the applicant's Tim, so I'm assuming we're talking about the property next to the car wash that we just did a boundary adjustment for. Is that correct?
We haven't asked to disclose any of the locations because of the request of the owner. At this point, it's just, we're touching on CL in general.
Okay, I just saw that the property owner is Tim Bush, and my question is, so on the planning commission minutes weren't in here. I'm assuming adjacent owners were contacted about the planning commission meeting?
They will be contacted when the conditional use permit goes through. Again, when we go through a zoning code text amendment, we can't afford to send it out to every potentially affected property owner. Otherwise, we just send it out in the utility billing mailers and just have every month, here's what we're working on for zoning code text amendments, because we just, we don't know. So that's really why it's, again, that we're pushing for the CUP process, is so that the adjacent property owners will be notified. They will be understanding what's coming and what the impacts may be and how they're going to be mitigated if there are impacts.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Stoker.
Yes, so I'm just wondering, is there another form where paint booths would be necessary? I mean, when I think of automotive collision repair, I'm thinking of a car that's been in a wreck. But if I just want my vehicle repainted, is that covered under this as well? Is there another business that could be in this realm that wouldn't be classified as automotive collision repair?
Yeah, so if there was a business that was just a paint detail shop,
Mako paint
right?
shop.
Yeah, where you just drive your car through and they give you a paint job as you're driving through. Just, right? It doesn't work that way, obviously, but I think that it would be covered because it has a paint booth. It is not necessary collision repair because there's not a collision, but it's still part of that process, and it would be very similar, and I would interpret it such that it would be the same type of use.
If any car goes in for paint, it's not just a scuff and squirt, because there's usually a ding or dent or two or a fender half ripped off from the high school kid driving to school. So it falls into that. So, okay. Very good. Council, with that, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Appreciate it. Moving on to resolution 4423, interlocal agreement with the city of West Richland regarding the 2008 wholesale water agreement. With Al Roscoe, I'll present his staff reports. Did I skip a page? I got a 4-pager here. There we go. Okay, I'm back on track. Back to you on this, Roscoe. All righty. There it is. Okay, 8E is a resolution amending master fee schedule for water and sewer rates. And Roscoe, you got the Public Works staff report this evening?
Yeah, I'm covering for finance tonight. Erin Wynn's on vacation, so I told her I would take this to council since it has to do with public works. So there's two things that we're doing. We're in the middle of updating both our water and sewer comp plan. We spent the last almost 2 years looking at impacts from a master plan out at Mosel Clark Ranch. And as part of that, we're updating the rate models. And so the consultant we were using for the financial rate models has retired as of the end of last year. And so our finance department is taking over that effort. So it's taking a little longer. But two things have come up in the interim that we had a discussion at staff with a follow-up with our utility committee about not waiting to the end of the year to take all these things all at once, but these two specific items to take them before council and address them now rather than just stockpiling the laundry list. So two things, we had a notification. Council is aware that we have 5 cell tower site leases, and out of those 5, 4 of them have cell towers located up on Flat Top Hill. We received a notice from Vertical Bridge that they own a tower out there, that they are going to terminate their site lease with the city. So they've given us proper notification. Basically, they don't have any other co-locators other than the site next to them, which is Sprint. They have a lease with us that expires at the end of this year on July 31st. And so Sprint, if you realize, is merged with T-Mobile, and T-Mobile already has a site they lease from us up on the hill. So they're basically getting rid of that site, which means the tower next to it, they don't have anybody to locate on it. And so they've terminated their lease. So for those that don't like cell towers or the traffic accessing them, this will be good news. But what it means is the city loses about $36,000 a year in revenue. And what we did with that revenue, that property was owned by the water and sewer utilities. And so that $36,000 was used to lower the rates for water and sewer. So by losing those two site things, there's about 31 cents or 30 cents impact per month per customer in revenue. And so part of the rate increase that's before you tonight is to raise the sewer 31 cents. And then part of the $2.82 on the water side is associated with that, about 30 cents of it. The other thing is we have a wholesale water agreement with the city of Richland. So that was executed back in 2008. It was a 40-year agreement, and they outlined the methodology on how they charge us for water. So we've paid the same fee back in 2008 until 2016 when it was amended. The rate went from 63 cents per 100 cubic feet down to 58 cents per 100 cubic feet. So 100 cubic feet is 748 gallons. Just you want to, we use gallons here at West Richland, they use cubic feet. And so it's been 8 years since it's been amended. Richlands has amended the rates over the years and we haven't brought it to their attention. Well, they caught it this time. And so it's been 8 years. And so they went through a process to update it and came back with needing to raise it to 80 cents, following the same methodology we agreed to back in 2008. I will note that it was originally 90 cents, but Erin Gwynn and her team caught an error in the calculation. So kudos to her team. That catch saves the city of West Richland $66,000 a year. But the bad news is the rate's still going up, from our 58 cents to 80. It seems like a big increase, but going through this process, which has been going on probably the better part of 7 months, we identified back in 2016 that Richland had an error. So while they lowered our rate from 63 cents to 58, lowered it 16%, it actually should have went up to 74% with an 8% increase. So we basically had a 25% discount on the water we purchased from City of Richland for the last 8 years. So if you look at it going from 74 to 80, it's not that big of a jump. But it's still an increase. No one likes to see it. What it amounts to is staff looked at this and what's the best way to deal with that increase. If you look at the last 3 years, the average water we purchased through the city of Richland. So I want to say it's about 500 million gallons of water we purchase through that intertie with the city of Richland. So this is our water right out of the Columbia River that Richland treats, that they treat, and then we pump it through their system and then through our booster pump there that's located on Kennedy there at Arena. This increase amounts to about $144,000 increase to what we'll need to pay for the city of Richland for the water. We did look at how do you recoup that? You know, do you raise the base rate? Do you raise the consumption rate? Do you do a combination to generate that? Had a discussion with Councilmember Bloom. You know, this is kind of a consumption thing, so why don't we put it on the consumption? But when staff went and looked at what we've done with rates over the last 6 years, we've increased the consumption rate by almost 20%. And part of that is to promote water conservation. You know, water is so those higher users are paying more. But when you look at what we've done to the base rate, we've only raised that 5%. And so staff looking at this, the recommendation was to put it on the base rate with the cell tower lost revenue and raise our water base rate to $2.82 to cover this. And again, we're still going through our water rate model and stuff. So we'll be back before the end of the year with all the other utilities. And unfortunately, as I told Councilmember Bloom, I don't know anything that's going down, whether it's labor, whether it's buying materials or services, everything is up. So unfortunately, as we go through the rate model with the rest of these items, we're looking at how to cut that, how to spread it out to absorb it at some point. You know, it just costs more to provide that service. So what you have before you is a resolution that would raise both the water and sewer rate. It would make it effective June 22nd to fit with the billing cycle that we have. So it would basically be the water service in July that our customers would see this increase in what they receive the first week of August of this year.
Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak to this agenda item this evening? Seeing no one in person, I see no one virtually either. Do you, Amy?
No, I do not.
I move to pass resolution 4123, amending Schedule E, item 18, utility service rates, sanitary sewer service charges, and the item 19, utility service rates, water service charges of the master fee schedule.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Council, is there any other questions you might have that have not been previously answered by Roscoe for Aaron? Councilmember Bloom?
Yes, and I'm reluctant to go along with this approach, primarily because we're upside down with Richland, our neighbor. Richland is charging $24 for the meter, but then almost 80 cents per 100 cubic feet. Right now, and one thing we discussed, and Roscoe didn't have the master fee schedule, so I pulled it up. For metered water for construction, we're significantly cheaper than Richland. And it's at 50 cents, so we're actually losing money on the water coming through. 50 cents 100. That's there's a flat rate for a truckload, but there's also a metered rate. And so
The consumption rate is double what residents pay. So if you're buying with a hydrant
right,
meter
residents are only paying 19 cents a 100.
per 100 gallons, that's
Right.
correct. The rate we're paying through Richland is 100 cubic feet.
Gallons and cubic feet. Okay, well, I understand not to shock everyone, especially high water users with a rate increase, but I think we need to balance out our look at both sides to discourage use, and that was the discussion we had. So I look forward to a change, in end of the year. And hopefully something can go down.
Yeah, with our water use efficiency program that we're required with ecology, they are strongly pushing water use efficiency conservation. And so they want us to look at tiered rates or seasonal rates. So that's tough. It's a balancing act because if you raise the rates too high, what you end up with is we've got a lot of residents that have nice yards, but if the rate gets too high, you'll start to see more and more of them letting their front yards go to seed because they just can't afford it. So it's a balancing act. But we will be looking at that as part of the water system plan update and the water use efficiency plan. And it'll come back to the utility committee for brainstorming, I guess, on how to work through those. But your comments aren't lost, Councilman Bloom.
Councilmember Smart?
Yeah, Roscoe, sorry I didn't bring this up in our committee meeting, but, and I don't expect an answer necessarily, but what would be the alternative to raising the rates here? I mean, I always, before we vote on something like this, I like to ask, is there an alternative? I personally don't know of one. Did you ever dream of one? I don't know what else we could do, right? But if you've got any thoughts on that, that'd be a great time to share them.
So when we go through the rates, one thing we do is we have a detailed rate model. And so the challenge that goes out to our supervisors, whether it's water, sewer, stormwater, irrigation, is to go through and justify their expenditures and really look at is that, this line item may had a one-time increase, but making sure that doesn't get escalated out. It's a one-time cost. And so they'll look at that. A lot of it falls on our finance department to try to guess what inflation will be on both labor and materials and be having realistic numbers. And so we'll dig into that to make sure we're not overestimating that. And the other thing is looking at staffing levels and really tying in, just because we're building more houses may not mean I need another stormwater guy or another parks guy. So we're really trying to tie that into a level of service and what do we get with it? So all good questions, but these are bills that we're going to have to pay for in lost revenue. So that's the easiest way to make it up. But overall, as we're going through it, we're going to look at efficiencies as we go through. What can we cut and not just raise to cover everything? We'll be looking at cuts also.
I really appreciate those comments. And I think that's a challenge to council as well as staff is that, we're going to raise these rates. We have a really good excuse this time around. I mean, we don't have much of a choice, but this just brings more of an emphasis to that general fiscal responsibility for everything else. And if we can pare down something that might not be absolutely necessary, it would give our citizens a bit of a break. So I appreciate that. And I will sadly support this. Thank you.
That all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Item 8F is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement with the city of Richland regarding the Badger Mountain South traffic mitigation. Roscoe presenting staff report, Susan.
Got to figure out how do you hold this down just forever here? Fingers going numb.
Have Stephanie come over and
Yeah.
rewire the bottom of it.
Yeah, well, I think it's on all the time or we push it to be on. So I think this is a better alternate. Brought it to my attention and we spent the last 18 months working with the city of Richland and their developer to update their transportation mitigation agreement. It brought in Benton County because Benton County had some impacts. And at the end of the day, it identified several projects. I don't know if it was 4 or 5 projects that impacts. And because of Eric's efforts, this agreement will bring just under $1.4 million into the city of West Richland to pay portions of several projects. Doesn't fully funds one, but the other ones it's portions, but we'll take it. A good example is our Keene Road Bombing Range project. It's, $3.6 million currently under construction. They're going to provide us $250,000, which completes the match to our federal grant. So when you look at West Richland dollars into that project, it's federal dollars, a little bit of developer impact fee, and the city of Richland. There's no West Richland residents money into that unless you bought a new home, paid the impact fee. So kudos to Eric and Andrew Woodruff, our city engineer, for going through and the 300-page transportation impact thing and getting that correct and identifying these mitigation measures. And I'll just prepare council. We've got a strong relationship with the city of Richland. This agreement is set up in a way that it can be used as a template. So any impacts from Lewis and Clark Ranch, our major development master plan, they'll be able to use this template to mitigate their impacts. If our developer has impacts to the city of Richland or Benton County's transportation system, then there's a mechanism to mitigate that. So I think that was it. So.
With that, is there anyone from the audience who'd like to comment on this agenda item this evening? If you'd like to come to the podium and state your name and residency and limit your comments to 3 minutes, you're more than welcome to, man.
Library is costing us every year.
I didn't understand your question.
I would like to ask the financial director how much the library is costing us every year.
Related to that on this item, ma'am. So if you'd like to ask the question at the next opportunity of public comment, you could do so.
Okay.
Finance director is not here today.
Okay.
But that is something that an answer we can get back to you. So it would be
Okay.
related to this particular agenda item, which is the amending for the interlocal for the city of Richland.
Okay.
And I see no one virtually this evening. Still, Amy, is that the case?
That's correct.
Council, may I have a motion, please?
I move to pass resolution 4223, authorizing the mayor to execute the attached interlocal cooperative agreement with the city of Richland regarding Badger Mountain South traffic mitigation.
Second.
Motion and a second. Council, is there any other questions you might have that are not previously answered in the staff report? Councilman Bloom?
Would the mitigation potential also extend to state highways? I'm thinking of our impact on possible 240.
The short answer is yes. And this Badger Mountain South has mitigation that DOT has worked out with the city of Richland and the developer. So the answer is yes.
No one else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Council, moving on to item 8G is a resolution and another interlocal agreement with the city of Richland regarding the TAP T01 booster pump station project. Roscoe, you're up again.
Yeah, so in 20 years, I think I've done a handful of interlocal agreements with the city of Richland, and all of a sudden we got 3 all at once. But the second one, this again deals with the 2008 wholesale water agreement we have with the city of Richland. We didn't pay a connection charge with them, but as part of that agreement, we agreed future improvements to their water system that is part of what serves the city of West Richland. We agreed to participate in that. In 2016, we signed an agreement identifying basically 2 projects. There was a booster pump called the Tap Tail Booster Pump, and originally it was just to upgrade the pumps. That was basically a Band-Aid. It was supposed to be an 8-year Band-Aid to get us to 2024 when they needed to rebuild the booster pump station. Richland was able to determine that they didn't need to do that. So also we're looking at is upgrading the booster pump station. It is a full reconstruct. And Councilmember Smart, you'll be happy to hear that they've added backup power on site for their booster pump station. So that's good news for us that this pump station is 12,500 gallons per minute, and the portion of that that comes to West Richland is about 2,500. In 2020, we amended the agreement to get more detail as far as what we were doing, what the costs were, as far as the planning and then the design. Richland's about 60% design now, and so the estimate has changed. And unfortunately, it has increased. Again, adding backup power and just the cost of everything has gone up. And so what we were thinking at 750,000 would be our part. We're about 1.2 million for this project that started back in 16, and 7 years later, it's increased. What this agreement does is shores up the construction and what West Richland's portion of it is. It's 20%, which is the capacity of that plant. And in this agreement, we're going to partner on a Public Works Trust Fund loan application. So that was one of the motions on the deal to mitigate the impact, is to go after a low interest loan of Public Works with the city of Richland. So our 20% of the construction could be split out at 20 years at 1.7% interest, rather than having to pay that up front. With the way that things are going, we can, if Erin was here, she'd tell us that keep your cash, because we can invest it and earn more than 1.7. So that's kind of the thing. So we're hopeful that Richland's successful and in getting that Public Works Trust Fund, so we can spread those payments out. I think it's about 65,000, 66,000 out over 20 years, rather than coming up with the 1.1 million all at once in 2024 and 2025. So what you have before you is just an amendment that was expected with the agreement that we signed in 2020 that shores up West Richland's, gives you the rest of the numbers that were obligated for that project.
Roscoe, anyone from the audience like to speak to this agenda item this evening? I see no one here, and Amy, still nobody virtually, correct?
Correct.
Good. May I have a motion, council?
I move to pass resolution 4323, authorizing the mayor to execute the attached First Amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement with the city of Richland regarding Tap Teal 1 booster pump station upgrade project.
Second.
Second, is there any other questions not previously addressed in staff report this evening, council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried unanimous. Thank you, council. Now only flipping one page instead of two, we're back to resolution, let's see, item 8H is another resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement with the city of Richland regarding the 2008 wholesale water agreement. Roscoe again.
All right, last one here. So this is actually amending the 2008 water agreement, wholesale water agreement that we talked about before. It's been amended. This will be the second time that it's been amended. This second amendment, again, I talked about the previous agreement was a 40-year agreement. This adds 15 years. So we've been 15 years under the other agreement. So this adds another 15 years. So it takes it out to 2066, which will see me through retirement by a ways. It also adds a point of connection for our proposed ASR well at well 10. So this will provide a direct connection right there at Kennedy and Fire Mountain. So that would be a direct line that would fill our ASR project. There was concerns that how would we guarantee that only river water was from Richland was going down that well and not water from our other groundwater wells going back into the aquifer. So that takes care of that issue and improves that location. As part of the negotiations with that rate, we agreed to, instead of buying 100 million gallons a year, 200 million gallons in this. So, and like I said, the last 3 years, we've purchased nearly 500 million. So we're still way under the minimum. And that was purposely that we've got in the next 2 years, 2 wells coming on. So our consumption will slightly reduce. But that's part of, the more we agree to buy, then that helps lower the rates with them. The other thing is both Richland and West Richland built new facilities. So our old 2008 agreement has the wrong addresses of our old city halls. So we've updated that. And then it also increases the rate from 58 cents to 80 cents that we talked about earlier. The good news is we were able to negotiate that this doesn't go into effect until January 1st of 2024. So we were able to slightly delay that increase to help reduce and mitigate those costs.
Thank you, Roscoe. Anyone from the audience speak to this agenda item this evening? Seeing no one in person. Amy, we still have nobody virtually, I see. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I have a motion, please.
I move to pass resolution 4423 authorizing the mayor to execute the attached second amendment to the 2008 wholesale water agreement with the city of Richland.
Second.
Second, any other questions for Roscoe have previously been answered by his staff report? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried unanimous. Thank you, council. We have no new business this evening or unfinished business. This is the opportunity for a second public comment session. If you'd like to address council, please come to the podium and state your name and residency for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. As a reminder, there's no back and forth conversation with council. However, if there's any questions that staff could answer during staff comments, they may do so. Anyone?
Patty Hendon, 6080 Deer Street. I want to say that when we did the survey and took pictures, the grass and the weeds have to be over 12 inches. The junk must cover the entire property to be considered on the list that we made. About a year and a half ago, I spoke with the mayor for 47 minutes. And he promised me that the code enforcement in Chapel area especially would be resolved and that the animal control person would be working on that. Obviously, that was a year and a half ago and it's still the same as it was. And she told me that she does not have time to do animal control and code enforcement. I'd like to see a full-time code enforcement officer. The junkie cars must be numerous and parked on the property and the street to be considered junkie cars, so to speak. The hoarders must have numerous rats, which you will find if you will take just maybe 10 minutes to ride down the 60th Street. They have feral cats that have been coming to my house. Soft touch, they'll feed you, she'll feed you. And I've quit doing that, but they have 14 feral cats that I've counted. And the last time my friend and I, went over there, I said, "Oh, look, there's a new cat over there. We haven't seen that one before." And she said, "Patty, that's not a cat, that's a rat." It was the size of a cat. I thought it was a cat because you can't see the house from the street at all. And there's an elderly man that lost his wife that lives there. And I have, talked to some of the neighbors. They said, "We've tried and tried. She'll come out. She'll tell him, you've got to clean up the property, get rid of some of these feral cats." And after his wife passed away, he seems to think that they're his companions. So for anybody that should be interested in seeing the street addresses that we have written down, I left pictures with her. And I did not trespass on any property, which is why the pictures are not as good as they could be. And I did speak to the man on Deer Street that's built, that's got a house for sale next to that new building that was built on Deer Street, like you're going toward Gross Cup.
You have copies of those or need copies, we can get you your originals back and we'll take those if you give them to the clerk.
The addresses,
She has them. Okay.
but I
very
have
good.
more copies. I have.
Anything that you'd like to share with the clerk, I encourage you to do so.
Well, that's about it. Promises have just gone unanswered as far as we're concerned. And I'm working with a friend of mine, Peggy Penensco. Roscoe, don't run out the door.
The chief may have some comments for you later in his comment.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to staff and council announcements, reports and comments. Any staff members' comments this evening? See, Eric, you're the first one up, jumping on it.
Yeah, just real quick. So the survey has wrapped up. We are getting all the documentations and all the reporting back for that. We are scheduling a workshop to go over that information. I know John will be excited to have a workshop to review the survey. So we're going to do that on the 25th of next month. So just put that on your calendars that we're going to do a workshop for that and review the survey results. Ron will be in attendance, probably virtually to that meeting, and be able to answer a lot of questions that you might have as well. So look forward to that. That's all I've got for tonight.
Blade?
As if there wasn't enough. Huh? So just let council know that I got appointed by the CEO of AWC to a WSU local government partnership partnership work group. So this last legislative session, there was funding set aside for the Joint Transportation Committee to contract with MRSC to study how local governments could assist DOT with completing projects. Similar to what we're doing with the SR 224 Red Mountain project. DOT's got a backlog of projects that aren't getting done. They knew that's from 2015. They have last year a transportation legislative project list that came through, Move Ahead Washington, that they're concerned. They've got court orders from Fish Passage, culvert barriers, pavement preservation. And so basically they put together this group. I was asked by AWC to serve on it based on our partnership with DOT to help them understand what other projects local agencies or counties could potentially take over to help the backlog of DOT projects. And so that starts next month. It's supposed to last a year. And so got the mayor's blessing to serve on that. So stay tuned. I'll keep you informed. But the idea is to figure out this backlog of projects because ultimately when they're not done timely, they just cost more with it. So that was it. Thanks.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'll let you know, Mayor, have the team reach out to Patty. There has been a transition of responsibilities that's happened with our animal control because she's right. She's been busy with that. I've had a plan, as you know, Mayor, with code enforcement, trying to be reactive to the public's concerns with the team and try and use more patrol for what things I can. But I'll have my team reach out to her and see what we can do.
Thank you, Chief. Much appreciated. Council, any comments, reports this evening? Councilmember Stoker? Oh, goodness sakes. Okay. Stephanie, I see you down there. That's the arch we're missing out of the.
Thank you. So I just wanted to notify council that our next regular meeting is scheduled for July 4th, which is a holiday. And so it would move to July 5th, but we are canceling that meeting. So our next regular meeting will be July 18th.
Amy, do you have anything for us this evening?
No, I do not.
Just checking. Can't see you around the corner. Councilman Stoker.
Yeah, so I'm grateful for that. Hopefully I'll be sold out of fireworks by July 4th, so we'll have some fun rather than coming here. But I just wanted to ask a quick question of Eric.
This is not fun.
I find setting off fireworks a lot more fun than sitting here.
I can't argue, Councilman.
Do we, I'm not looking for, exact answers or numbers or anything, but do we have an idea? Did we get enough, the 10% or whatever we were looking for the survey? I think we're trying to target 1,500 to 2,000.
We were targeting that much. We didn't get to that point, but we did get over 600 responses. So which is far more than we've ever gotten in any other survey that we've done in the city, which is great. And I know that there are other people that wish that they could have participated in it, found out after the survey closed, because they don't have Facebook accounts or utility mailer email addresses that we sent it out to. So there will be some lessons learned. We'll talk about those too at the meeting and talk about how next time we go out and go about the survey, how we can maybe reach more folks, particularly those who aren't on social media or don't look at their utility mailer email. So there's a lot of other ways we can maybe look at to see how we can reach folks. But I also think that as it gains momentum, that people will be looking for that and be, searching it out to say, hey, I know that this is the time of year, need to go out and search out the survey. So.
Councilmember Blue?
Well, just so happens I will not be available for the June council meetings, either one. I will be elsewhere. And unfortunately, I don't think I'll have internet capability.
Is that
So
July?
July.
Okay.
So I'll be both the council meeting and the workshop, I will be unavailable. I participated in a walking audit sponsored by the Council of Governments with Eric and Roscoe and Kate. And we went for a walk, looking at our sidewalks and our pathways and interesting discussions, and I think it was worthwhile.
How did Milo do?
That's my 1-year-old little Yorkie so it's a
Oh, Milo.
walkability assessment and we did it down at the Gateway, went down on River Shore and then came back 38th down Van Giesen, cross Van Giesen. And it had to do with how comfortable do you feel walking? Do you feel it's safe? Is there people around you? Is it wide enough for bikes and for people to walk side by side? So it's a local nonprofit that does these assessments and they're supposed to give us a report. They said it'd be fairly quick. So once we get that report, I'll share it with council. But they did mention that out of the other cities, they've done these walkability assessments. West Richland was the first one to have council members attend and senior staff attend. So they were very impressed with our willingness to do this. But yeah, the Yorkie was a little perturbed because we had to stop every few feet to assess that segment. You wanted to walk. So it was a good time.
I could have brought my boxer and would have had a snack.
Councilmember Hayes?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to everybody that attended and everybody that spoke at the renaming of the West Richland Senior Center to the Bill Shane Senior Center. And we couldn't have put it on and had the banners and everything, all the food that we had without our sponsors. So a huge thank you to all of our sponsors, the City of West Richland, Benton REA, Operation We Care, Knights of Columbus, and the West Richland Chamber of Commerce. So it was a great event. A lot of people attended and a lot of wonderful words were spoke about Bill Shane. And then what we have coming up next is we are going to be opening the Bill Shane Food Pantry down at the Senior Center. And that's to help support the local seniors. Right now, when we start off, it'll be from 68 to Gross Cup and all the way to the end. So that's a pretty large section. And we have some seniors that are going to volunteer to go door to door and hand out flyers to let them know that we do have a food pantry and find out their needs and try to help that all the seniors in that area is what we'll start with and kind of go from there. So we're really excited about that too. So, and thank you for the support from the residents, the city, and the different businesses. It's been really heartwarming. Thank you.
And again, I appreciate everything you do down at the Senior Center and the new group down there that's taking it and running with it. I know that you were instrumental in the chamber, and I'm sure you will be just the same with the Senior Center. So thank you again for what you do. Okay. With that, I see no other comments and I have none this evening. So we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 7:24.